overcrowded graveyard, the scream will rise. Ghoulmates Entertainment presents Not Another Spooky Podcast.
Welcome back to Not Another Spooky Podcast, where we serve freshly popped horror reviews filled with blood, guts, and spoilers every Monday. I'm Mandy Spooks.
And I'm Rabbit Loves Horror, and we're here to remind you theaters are not dead one bloody popcorn bucket at a time.
Whether you love going to every single horror release or you want to hear all the reviews and spoilers before spending your money at the theaters, we've got you covered. The front half of the show never has any spoilers and will warn you when it's time. Today, we're grave digging into Rosario. If you ever want to know what film we're covering next, you can check the show notes to see what you should watch that weekend. To set the vibe for this episode, we're taking a break from Bone Mary Slash because we couldn't think of a theme set of characters for this one, to be honest. So we decided we should resurrect
Tombstone Trivia.
Mr. Spooks, the man behind our production magic, has provided us with a question. We'll both be taking a guess, and the answer will be revealed at the end of the episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment down below on what you think the answer is. So you'll see here, it is currently, the answer is, what is it called? Hidden? I was going to say revealed, but it's covered. I cannot see it. Neither of us can. So the question is, what horror television series was created by Ryan Murphy, who also created the TV series Glee?
Oh, well, is that for me?
I think it's for both of us. I think we both know the answer.
Okay, yeah. That's an easy one.
American Horror Story?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, am I wrong? Okay, so we'll double check the answer at the end. And then that brings us into some
haunted housekeeping.
Okay, so today's haunted housekeeping is very familiar to you, but we did want to remind you guys that we are now on YouTube, and I hadn't seen the final product yet when we talked about it last week, so I did want to let you know that Mr. Spooks has done a really spooktacular job on the branding for the podcast. It was really cool to see how it has come together, so be sure to go check it out. Do you have any haunted housekeeping?
No, I guess I just need to go watch the YouTube videos to see all the animations that Mr. Spooks came up with. I'm just embarrassed to see myself on camera, but I'll sacrifice to go see those visuals. Yeah,
you got to check them out. They're pretty cool. It's funny you haven't seen them. You'll do anything to avoid seeing yourself.
Yes.
All right, Ghosters, it's time for our favorite chat of the week, Keeping the Spook Alive.
It's alive. It's alive.
All right, Rabbit, how are you keeping the spook alive?
So I didn't really do anything this week that really, where I actively kept the spook alive. But I do, I guess, have a little story of how I got scared this weekend or this week. So it's kind of rare for me to get scared after watching a horror movie, just because I feel like I've been desensitized from all the movies that I've watched before. So I'm like, nothing really scares me after a movie. But after we watched this movie, Michael then tells me a story about how earlier in the week he was at work and he went on a walk, just like a walk break. And when he was on his walk break, he forgot his AirPods. So he was just walking without listening to anything. And as he's walking, he hears somebody whisper in his ear, his name.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He hears somebody say Michael. And he turns around and nobody's there. So outside. That scared me. Yeah. Just walking outside and somebody whispers his name and he turns around and nobody's there. And that freaked me out. I didn't tell him that it freaked me out because I get really spooked when things like that happen to other people and I'm around. But yeah, that definitely kept the spook alive for me.
So was he scared or he was just telling you nonchalantly?
I think he's had those things before. Those types of things happened to him before. I know he has told me before, when we first moved into this apartment that we're living in right now, he had told me something similar happened. But I told him not to tell me anything. Like, if something happens to you in this apartment, do not tell me.
Oh my
Just because
God.
I'm a huge scaredy cat when things happen to me. But like in the movie, watching a movie, a horror movie, it doesn't really affect me that much because I'm not like experiencing it. So I told him, like, if anything happens in the apartment or you hear something or see something, just don't tell me.
Keep it to yourself. It's like a cold. I don't want to catch it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he was like, okay, I can tell him this because it happened outside of the apartment. But yeah, I'll let you know if anything else happens to him.
That's interesting.
Hopefully it's nothing.
That is definitely spooky.
Alrighty, how'd you keep the spook alive?
Well, I think I spooked a little too hard this week also. I don't know. So it's funny because Mr. Spooks has always like treaded carefully with horror. He likes it a lot, but it also can give him anxiety sometimes. But because we've been going more often, he was like, I've been having more fun than I thought I would, or like it hasn't been as like scared, like not because he can handle it. It's just, I think it's all of the like anxiety building things that he doesn't like about horror sometimes. And I was like, yeah, I noticed last Halloween when I went to Blumfest by myself that the more you watch it, the more like fun and less scared you get. But then when you take a break from it, you have to like get back into it again. And then that's when it's scary. But I learned you can't overdo it this week because we watched Rosario. I was also doing research for my Bloody Mary episode of The Haunted Line that like just came out on my channel. And then I was watching Hysteria. We watched Hysteria. Have you heard about it?
No.
So it's this new show. I don't know how new it is, but it's on Peacock. And it's about this high school band that pretends to actually be a satanic cult to gain like popularity in their high school. And it's not scary, but I just feel like with all the things in my head about like the movie Rosario and then the things I was reading about Bloody Mary and then this combined, I'm like, why is there so many heavy themes of like Satan and witchcraft in my life right now? And I started to feel it by Friday after the movie because I was home all day, obviously, without Rudy. And like, I just felt that like heaviness you get when you're like, it's so it started creeping up on me. And I was like, okay, I need to take a break from all the satanic stuff for a little bit. So yeah, I've definitely been spooky around here.
Yeah, Michael used to work night shifts. So he would be gone from like 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. or something like that. And I would torture myself those nights for some reason, just because I get lonely. So I'm like, well, what if I just watch like a horror movie? And then I'd be regretting it when I go to bed. So I would have to put like YouTube on to like distract my brain of seeing shadows or anything like that. So I get it. I've been there before.
Yeah. And it's funny because with the way our apartment's decorated now, like it's really dark in here all day. Like it's literally blacked out if you don't have like the curtains open and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to open these and turn on a light in every corner.
Yeah. I used to leave all the lights on and then, until I actually had to go to bed, then that's when the YouTube would come on.
That's funny. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Good times. I just need to switch topics for a little bit. It's weird how it just like all aligned that it was all like witchy and satanic in 1 week. All right, Goldsters, it's time for the spoiler pack segment of the show. So if you don't want spoilers, this is your warning to pause and come hang out with us once you've seen the movie. What popped into theaters this week, Rabbit?
Alrighty, so this week, Rosario popped into theaters. So trigger warning, we're going to be speaking about different religions, witchcraft, death, and mishandling a corpse, I guess. So before I get into the summary, Rotten Tomatoes audience rating of 63%. Actually, I think that was a tomato meter, which is kind of high, I feel.
Oh, really? I don't know. It seems pretty accurate, I'm thinking. Like, I can see why it's not a high score, but also I also enjoyed it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
it kind of makes sense for me. Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm going to get into the movie summary, but I'm going to go a little bit more detailed of what happens in the movie, just because I'm not sure if everybody has access to see this movie. I know you had a struggle of finding a theater, and I guess you did find one. So in case you're listening to the episode, but you haven't seen the movie, I'll give you like a quick summary and rundown of what happens. So it starts with the Wall Street broker Rosario Fuentes returns to her grandmother's apartment after her sudden death. While sorting through her grandmother's belongings, Rosario uncovers a horrifying secret, a hidden chamber filled with occult artifacts tied to dark generational rituals. As supernatural occurrences plague her, Rosario must confront her family's buried secrets and face the truth about the sacrifices and choices they made. While uncovering the secrets, she thinks her grandma put a curse on her because her parents divorced when she was young, and she decided to stay with her dad. While she tries to undo the curse, she figures out her grandma was actually praying and protecting her every night. Then in another twist ending, she finds out it was actually her dad who conducted a ritual, pretty much kind of like a deal with the devil or deal with the spirit to make sure that she succeeds in life. Things go wrong, and after the whole crazy things happening, her father gets possessed by the spirit. She kills the father, and then another twist ending, the demon appears again, or the spirit appears again, and I guess takes over Rosario. And I'm assuming that's because she was no longer protected by her grandmother or by her father. And then the movie ends. So that's a quick rundown of how the movie plays out. Do you have any input?
No, that's good. I think there's like details we can talk about later, but I did kind of want to share with the audience. We are always aiming to improve, and I kind of have felt like we could have a better structure in this portion of the show. And then I also thought, what if there's people listening, or actually I know there are people listening when they're not so interested in a film. And I'm like, okay, well, we should probably share more about what actually happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like Rabbit was saying, in case you haven't seen it or you don't have access to it, this can probably help fill the gaps and the void for you guys to actually like understand the things we're talking about. So you'll also notice that our reviews should hopefully feel a lot more structured moving forward too.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll notice.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll get into the cast. So it was directed by Felipe Vargas. I tried to see if he did any other films, but to me it seems like this is his first feature film. When I looked at his IMDb, it seemed like he did a ton of shorts, like a short horror movies, but I didn't see an actual feature film before this one. Then we have Emerald Tobia, which is Rosario, and then another main character, Jose Zuniga, which is the dad. And then we have David Dastmalchian, which is the neighbor, Joe, who is in a lot of spooky stuff. In like Late Night with the Devil, which is a really good movie, and also superhero movies and shows. He was in Suicide Squad as the Polka Dot Man. So he's pretty popular, and I was very surprised to see him in this movie. I was like, oh, I know that man. He's in like all the spooky movies. Okay, so now I guess we're going to go into our initial reactions, our first impressions. Did you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, so I want to say I loved the movie, but it's very dependent on my roots as a Latina seeing the film, I feel. And it definitely had room for improvement, but overall, I loved it. So, like, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one for me because I really loved it, but I also saw a lot of areas for improvement at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm conflicted because I really liked like the lead up of this movie, what it was leading up to. Like I love the whole setup. Like she went through this whole journey and you're kind of rooting for her. Like you can kind of overcome this, and then you kind of connect with her. You kind of like find similarities between yourself and her, like what she's going through. But then the end just like ruined it for me. There was just so many twists, like a twist on a twist on a twist. And I feel like it didn't need so many twists. I think the movie had already did what it needed to do and make you feel certain things. So I really feel like, the twist endings just really messed it up.
I know, but I also feel like they make sense for certain reasons. So we could get into it more, but I agree. It definitely had room for improvement overall. So we can kind of move on to the next part if you're ready to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is kind of like the tone and the atmosphere, I guess you can say. For me, I feel like I really connected with the character. I kind of saw myself in her internal struggles, I guess you can say. And I really related to her in that way. I guess because we're both like no sabo kids, like we don't really know Spanish. And she kind of was like struggling with that too. And like struggling to connect to your Mexican roots. So I was like, girl, I get it. We're kind of the same.
But do you think, I kind of noticed too, though, like, maybe that's part of like the writing part of it, but she pretended not to know, but then like when it came to reading the spells, she knew it. Even by the end, she tells her dad like, no, I don't know how to pray in Spanish. And I'm like, girl, you just did like how many spells in Spanish? Like, this is it. So I don't know if it's like a confidence thing or a rejection thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess for me, I can read Spanish. Like if I have like the words in front of me, I can read them. So maybe that's part of it. But I also think, like you said, it's kind of like, I don't want to speak Spanish because either like I don't feel connected to that or I'm like embarrassed of it.
I think there's a lot of
So it could be a
embarrassment
combination. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then as far as like atmosphere, I don't know. In a way, I do want to say I don't think this was as scary as I was anticipating it to be. And I also don't think it ever went as scary as I was thinking it would either. Like, yes, there were scary moments. So I'm kind of leaning towards it kind of being a little bit cozy horror. Because of the like snow being trapped in the building. I don't know. Like, I just didn't think it was scary. And I was anticipating it to be pretty scary.
Yeah, that's funny that you say cozy because I made a note of how some of the scenes felt cozy. Like
really?
Like just going to your grandma's house and there's like so much clutter, not clutter, but just like so many things and it just feels cozy in a weird way.
But also spooky? Or is that just me?
No, yeah, like you have like all these like crosses everywhere, things like that, but it still feels cozy at the same time. So yeah, I kind of got the same feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, do you agree that it wasn't very scary then?
No, I don't think it was that scary. I mean, I did like some of the visuals, and I did like the spirit of her mom or whoever that was supposed to be. I did like, I guess, the monster, but yeah, I feel like it could have been scarier, but oh well.
No, I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I think maybe I was anticipating it to be scarier, so that expectation was there. Yeah. But I guess we can get into the direction and cinematography. I actually did not look up more about the director, but I do know that this is a new Latino filmmaking production company.
Oh. So
that's kind of why, I don't know if you noticed, like in the opening with like the credits, almost everyone involved was Hispanic or Latino.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that was really nice to see. I did see the screenwriter was male Latino, and then the cinematographer was a female Latina, which was really cool. And I thought that the cinematography was really good, considering that this was a kind of like it seems like the first feature film from the production company. I don't know if Felipe owns the production company or not.
Right.
I should have done more research, but I was expecting less quality, to be completely honest. I was really impressed with the cinematography and the quality overall of the production value, considering that this didn't come from like Blumhouse or Universal or anything. Yeah. I thought it looked really good, and I especially really, really loved the color palettes that they chose, especially in the New York scene. Like, it was very cool toned, and I love cool colors, in case you haven't noticed. But nothing I do, it's like a struggle for me as a creator because Halloween is so orange and warm toned. But I love cool tones, and it's very rare to see it. So that entire like New York sequence of her in her life was really cool, but it also reflected how she's like this cold version of herself. She's not like into her roots, and she's very like, even when she's talking to a man at the beginning, she's like, I can't take you on as a client because you don't make enough money for my, what is it called? The company she works for, I guess. And then when it moves into going back to the grandma's house, like you said, it's spooky, but it's cozy, and it turns to more, it still had that cool tone throughout, I feel, but then you had a lot of diffusion to make it look more like dreamlike, and candles, and it just was done so well and seamlessly because it also didn't feel like a stark change. Like the transition was done really well. So I really liked that part of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those are like all the notes that I wrote also. Because I also noticed in the beginning of the movie, the cinematography is like cool tones, snow, but then they would have like some interesting shots where she would be like on her phone or like walking down the street, and it would not focus on her, I guess you can say. Like she wasn't the focal point of the shot. It was like a wide shot with you could see the background of like an advertisement for like a perfume or something. So it was like very modern, clean, and like luxurious looking. Like she had on her gold jewelry on, and then in the background there would be like these big buildings, and everything just looked modernized. And then eventually she went down in the subway, got to her grandma's house, and everything kind of like switched, where it was cluttered, cozy, and everything was a little bit darker. So I do like how they kind of like swapped the scenes from that to this. I did like that. So good job to her, because I loved also the rest of the cinematography. Like I said, there were some really cool camera angles in the beginning, but then also when she was in the apartment, like you would think something is going to be coming for her, like from the back or something, like from a doorway or something. Nothing really happened, which I feel like that was like a missed opportunity. But I still liked the camera angles where it kind of kept you on your toes, like something back there, is something going to pop out or something going to peek out. So she did a great job. So shout out to the cinematographer, because I have a bone to pick with the writing and the directing. But those are my final thoughts on cinematography.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was great. I have no feedback on the cinematography either.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear it. Since I kind of monopolized the cinematography, what were your thoughts on the writing?
So for the writing, I just felt like it could have been better. One big thing I did not like about the writing is that there was so much exposition. In one scene, she's on her phone reading like what's happening in the movie. And I'm like, you don't need to tell us that. Like, I think we're a little smart enough to like figure out, okay, this is like a ritual. Like, you don't have to like force feed us what's going to happen or like what is happening. Like, we can figure it out on our own. So I feel like they should have left some of that out. Maybe her phone should have died earlier, and, you know, she could have been reading some of it and then it cut out and we kind of like put the puzzle pieces together. And then some lines just didn't feel genuine. Like, I don't think that's something you would say to your grandmother's corpse, even if you were estranged. There were like certain lines that she would say to her grandma. It just felt out of character, because obviously she had respect for her in a way. But the lines that were delivered were very like, you're just like a random corpse lying on a couch, you know? So I felt like they could have, worked on some of that too. But those are my thoughts on the writing. Yeah,
no, I agree. Are you talking about when she says, fuck this and fuck you?
Yeah, like what?
Okay, yeah, so there's a part, for those who haven't seen it, where she like discovers that the grandma has like a hidden ritual closet, basically. And then she's like, slams the door. And granted, she thinks that the grandma cursed her at this point, True. But she's like, fuck this and fuck you. I agree. I thought that was weird. In general, I felt like the way she handled the entire situation was weird. I do think that the dialogue was written really well from a Mexican American, or like, I'm not positive she was Mexican, because they mentioned like South African culture at some point. So I don't know if they may have been somewhere else, but the second generation Hispanic American thing, I guess, or theme, I feel was done really well with code switching in dialogue, where she clearly speaks more English with white accent on her Spanish words towards the beginning. and then she like loses it throughout. I felt that was done very well when it comes to dialogue. And it's funny because this entire movie, even when we said it last week, when we said we're covering Rosario, I was like, do I say Rosario or do I say Rosario? Because it's engraved in you. Like, I grew up in El Paso, but then I moved to Phoenix, and I quickly learned that people would always ask me, like, what did you say when I would pronounce something correctly? Or I'll never forget, I was like teased at work one time because I said mesa instead of mesa, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, it's literally a Spanish word. Like, you don't say mesa. Like, I don't know, like, to me, I'm like, it's table. If you're saying it in English, you would say table, not mesa, you know? So throughout time, I've whitewashed my own language based on who I'm speaking to. And even as a creator, I sometimes feel like, well, most of my audience doesn't know Spanish. And so watching this film, it was very relatable in that sense. And also by the end, I was like, no, screw that. I'm going to say Rosario because that's how the name should be said, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Even El Paso, we call it El Paso, but it's El Paso.
El Paso, yes. And it's funny because like in general, growing up there, I did call it El Paso. Like, there are certain things that I do naturally say English, but then there are some times when I do intentionally code switch to say it in a way that the audience is going to receive it, you know? So I do feel like that part of the writing was done very well, and they carried it through the entire way. And I think maybe the part of her telling her dad, like, I can't pray in Spanish was more so from embarrassment. Like that whole, like, well, I don't want you to hear how bad my Spanish has gotten, but when she's alone, she's okay with it. But as far as like the writing and pacing, I don't know. The way she handled the entire situation was strange.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, but just like from the very beginning, like the way she dealt with her grandma's body, like she grabs the arm, so the landlord had covered the grandma's body, and she of course like wants to see it. And I feel like deep down I would too. Like it's
for sure. You want to
crazy,
see,
but I would also just want to see so that it's like not in my head, like what could it possibly look like? And then she uncovers it. It's crazy, obviously. But then she like starts touching the grandma's body, like examining it. And at that point, I feel like I would have washed my hands or done something. Like it just seemed weird because she clearly wasn't just like, oh, passed away a couple minutes ago. Like her body was already decayed and processing. But then it moves on to her like attempting to clean the apartment. And I was like, okay, that's very Latina branded. Like your instinct is to clean and stuff. But it just felt weird. Like it wasn't, what would a girl really do in this situation? Like there wasn't ever a lot of emotion, I feel. Like it was always very like factual, like this is what's happening. And then even the part where she discovers the chamber, whatever it is, I don't know what it's called. It's funny because she initially goes like, nope, not gonna mess with it, closes it. But that part is the debate of the movie. Like, is she going to go on this journey or not? And it just happened like nothing. Like she waited like 2 seconds before she was like, this is a curse and I'm gonna figure it out. Like there was no, even though you felt like there was too much of her figuring it out, I feel like she figured it out too quickly. Like, who does that? Like, who discovers like a ritual area, closes it, and is like, never mind, I'm going to check. Okay, this is clearly a curse. I'm going to figure it out. Like, it just felt very quick, on the nose, like you said, but at the same time, she didn't debate it over it enough. Like, this was a really big journey for someone to go on, and it gave final girl energy. Like, I'm not going to lose at this, but at the same time, there was never really a struggle on her part. Yeah,
I agree. When she was touching the body, I feel like that was also too quick. Like, yes, you have the curiosity, like what's under the sheet? What does it look like? So definitely I feel like, okay, that's true. I would want to kind of be curious, like what's under the sheet. But then, like manhandling her, like looking at her jewelry, I'm like, that feels weird. That just doesn't feel genuine. And then dragging her body to the room. Like,
I forgot about that. That was
why are you dragging her body to the room? Like, just leave the body on the couch and I don't know. I don't even know why she did it. And then same, I love that when she found the chamber or the secret room, she's like, nope, I'm out of here. So I was like, okay, a little realism. If I wouldn't want to touch that either. But then she just like you said, she came in so quick. Like we should have saw something that encouraged her to go into that room. Like, okay, I don't want to go into that room or in that secret chamber, but if I want to figure this out, I have to go in there. So that was, yeah, I agree. That was a missed opportunity where they kind of like should have had a scare outside in the kitchen or outside in the living room that brought her back into the room to go into that chamber. So, yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because now that you bring up the like kitchen living area, in a way they kind of, that was almost like the safe zone of the house because it never really like goes in there until the very end. And now I'm kind of like, they should have kind of not let that happen either because the whole movie, it only happens in those two rooms. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely they didn't think through some of those things. It feels like most of their intentional writing and research went into the actual like religion that they were talking about and like the rituals behind it. And then of course, like ensuring that the whole like immigrant story was told correctly too, I feel. So maybe we could get into the characters more because I feel like there's a lot to be said about the actual characters. Going off of Rosario's character, I wasn't a big fan of her acting.
Really?
And I don't know, I want to say that I think it was more the director's shortcomings than the acting because she did do a really good job. She was very likable, kind of like we had talked about with Megan Fahey. I feel like she was the Hispanic version of that. Like I couldn't get over how pretty I thought she was. I really loved her final girl energy, but I just felt like there was never enough emotion. Especially like with the grandma, like we said, you never really felt her sadness over it. And I feel like they really had to say that she felt like guilt and shame over what she did versus like really showing it. Like I don't feel that I ever felt emotionally connected to her other than like relating, yes, but I didn't like feel things from her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually don't think she was a bad actress. I thought she was good. But I just think she was given like weird lines to say. So like the part where she's like, F you. And then there was another part where she finally is like, has the book open of spells and she's like reading it and she's like, this is your fault. And I'm like, that's something, I don't know. It just didn't feel like actual lines someone would say in that situation. So I blame the director and I blame the writer, unfortunately. So I think, yeah.
No, and I agree. That's why I said I don't think it's her. I think it's the shortcomings of the director, because I do think she did, like, it wasn't ever like, wow, that's bad acting or cringe. It was just more so like I never felt from her. And that should have definitely been feedback that the director was giving her. Like, no, I need you to push harder or go further, cry, like do something, you know, and that never happened. But I do think that the mom was cast very well. I mean, I think everyone's casting was great. Of course, like I said, it goes back to the directing, but the mom's character specifically, I feel was done so well because she kind of does look evil. And it leaves you wondering, like, is the mom bad or not? And then the twist is that it was the dad. I mean, the dad wasn't bad either, but it's just like, that the mom's casting was good because from the very beginning I was like, ooh, that mom's evil, and she wasn't.
Yeah, the mom like scared me, and I kind of felt bad for the mom because obviously she had been through a lot. So you can tell she's kind of I don't know, bitter, but just like tired, I guess you can say. But yeah, the mom's character was definitely kind of like a red herring, like, oh, she's the one that's doing all of this stuff. And yeah, she was definitely looked terrifying. Like, I'm scared of her, which is kind of true. Like with like strict moms, like strict, you know, Mexican moms. It's like, that's what I envision.
Yes, I was literally about to say that it's very on brand, especially because it's always like the super strict señora. And then, you know, you always know that it's because they've been through some shit at the end of the day, like this story. But at the same time, like some kind of like spooky presence to her. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just it was I don't know. It was just done very well. The dad, I didn't look him up, but he felt familiar, and I'm like, I don't know if he's just like was cast so well for like a Mexican dad, but he felt like very on point for me. The grandma was kind of strange to me. I don't know, just like not what I expect from a Hispanic grandmother for some reason. And I don't know why. Maybe we just didn't see her enough either, that she like never became familiar, if that makes sense. But the neighbor's character was kind of like throw you off character in my opinion. I don't feel like his character ever paid off though. Like, why was Rosario so mean to him? And why was he sick? Like, I thought him being sick was going to be tied to the story somehow. And I don't know, like his character just never really paid off. Like, he didn't help in the end. He wasn't tied to the story. It was just very strange.
I agree. I don't see the point of that character. Because he really didn't have a point. I feel like, why did she just give him the air fryer? And for people who haven't seen it, he keeps knocking on the apartment door asking for her to return, the air fryer that he had lent to the grandma. And she doesn't believe that there's an air fryer. So I'm like, why can't you just check there's an air fryer in the kitchen and give it back to him? So I was like, why is this a thing? It felt like there was no point to his character and no point to the air fryer, except for the joke at the end where they find the air fryer. But I agree. It was kind of pointless.
Yeah, it was strange. And also, like, they made a point of saying he was sick. And I'm just like, why?
Yeah,
I
why
kept
was he
thinking
sick?
that
There's
he
no
was going to
reason.
be, I was like, he's going to be sick because, like, they're drawing energy from him or something. But it was never stated. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It was strange. But I don't know. Any other thoughts on casting and characters?
No, I think I agree with a lot of what you said about the characters. So nothing else to add.
Sorry, I feel like I'm monopolizing this review.
No, you're fine.
Okay, and then we have kills and scares for the film. I feel like there weren't that many kills, but
No, not until the end. The scares, I kind of like that they weren't really relying on jump scares that much. I do feel like maybe they could have had one, maybe one that actually paid off, because I feel like they did try to have some jump scares in there. But I feel like they could have just done, I don't know, something scarier. One scene that one scare that I did really like was when she gets under the bed and like she sees the shoes like walk, but then she pulls the curtain or like the bed sheet, and then you see like there's nobody in the shoes. I feel like there could have been like something else to like, I don't know, get her or like pop out or like, I don't know, just something else to like add to that scene. Even though I do feel like the scene was powerful, what happens when it explains it at the end. But I didn't like the kills. I feel like they weren't necessary. Like, why kill the neighbor? Why kill the dad? If all those things happened at the end of the movie, I feel like there's 3 dead bodies in this apartment and the cops show up. Like, what happened here? Like, this wasn't an accident. Something happened in this apartment and she was just like, let go. I don't know. It just didn't really make sense. The kills didn't make sense. I don't think they were necessary in the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. I agree too, as far as like what you said, the scene with the bed and the shoes, and you expected something more to still happen. I think that's how I constantly felt throughout the film, where I was like, oh, something scary is about to happen. And then it never really did. And I feel like with the jump scares, they were missing sound. Like you kind of, Mr. Spooks has talked about this before in like other podcasts and stuff, but sound is a really big part of building anxiety and terror, I guess, in horror. And I think that that's kind of what this film was lacking, because there were a lot of opportunities for that to happen, but that's the sound wasn't there. And then as far as the like kills and stuff, this is kind of going to get into practical effects and CGI. The kills were like not just the kills, but like the scary things were done very well from a practical effects perspective. We were really surprised that a lot of it was done with like practical effects and not CGI. But I don't know. I also wasn't sure if like some of the things were accurate. Like the grandma's body did not look like a real dead body. It clearly looked like it was done for show, I guess, like for effect of the story. And I don't know how accurate it was. And that also kind of made me keep coming out of it because I was like, is she supposed, like, how long has she been dead? And is that normal? And then it also made me wonder at some point, like, what does happen to blood in your body? Like, it just sent me, like, side questing in my brain a lot of, like, the things that were happening because it didn't feel real. And therefore, it was leading me to, like, is that what it would look like and stuff? But then some things were done really well, like when the, like, green stuff came out of the mouth. The hand coming out of the mouth too was Mr. Spooks told me was also a practical effect. So like everything was done very well from a production quality perspective, but I don't know that it felt real or like realistic. So it took me out a lot.
Yeah, I kind of also agree with the grandma's body. Like there were some scenes where I'm like, is that what happens when there's a dead body? Like how long has that body been there for it to look like this? Or how long has that body been there for there to be no blood in certain parts of her body? And yeah, I felt the same way. I started thinking instead of like paying attention to the movie. I was like,
Yes.
oh, is there no blood in the fingers when you cut it when you die? So it's, yeah, I agree. I was like, yeah, your mind kind of just like wanders off because so many things are just happening where you're like, oh, that's weird. And then I did like the practical effects. The hand coming out of the mouth, that was pretty cool. And then I think it even went into CGI in some scenes because the mouth like had opened like so big for the spirit to come out, which I thought I could tell it was CGI, but I thought it was like a really cool visual of a spirit coming out of like the mouth and kind of like coming from deep within the grandma. So that was cool. So I have no complaints about the CGI or the practical effects, just that it made me wonder like, oh, is that what a dead body does?
Yeah. Weird side quest research we'll be doing. But yeah, it was cool. And then as far as, I feel like those are all very on the nose criticisms we've had, or not so on the nose, but I feel like because this movie meant a lot watching it as Latinos, I think that's the redeeming factor of the film and why I didn't want to say this so soon when you asked about the rating. I feel like if you're watching this without the experience of being a second generation Hispanic in America, you can't appreciate it. Like, I can see why the score would be lower because you're not going to emotionally connect with the themes in this film.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this is very, not that other people can't appreciate it. I guess if you're not from like a Hispanic culture, you wouldn't pick up on the things like code switching and things like that. But I really feel like as a Hispanic person or somebody watching this as Hispanic, you could definitely find those similarities between you and Rosario. You're like, okay, I get why she's doing this, or I get why she said this, because I feel the same ways in certain aspects.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to say don't watch it. You're not going to understand it or relate. I just think that those things are what makes this movie like redeemable and like a good watch for us, because like we did have a lot of feedback as far as like the writing goes, because it also wasn't a bad film. It just had a lot of areas that it could have been better. Like I always talk about, like, I had fun watching it. It was interesting and it was a cool journey, but there were a lot of things in there that I felt were very important to see, and probably like my first time experiencing with a horror film. So a big part of the film is obviously immigration, and the whole story is about the family moving to America so that Rosario could have a better future than her parents did. And you mentioned that you didn't like all the twists with the ending, as far as like it was the dad who did it and then she still. So my understanding of it, and I could be wrong, but my interpretation was first, I really loved that the twist was that the dad had done the ritual, because he talks about how he did it because he saw how happy she was at her communion, and he felt this pressure of, I will never be able to provide the life that she deserves. So he was so desperate, he did this ritual thinking that it would bring her success. But then the moral of the story is, don't mess with things that you don't understand, because he did this ritual not knowing that it was going to curse her. Once she reached success, then she'd have to like pay the price for it, obviously. So then the grandma takes over and is like, I'm gonna do this ritual every day so to protect her. But it's very relatable that the dad would have done this, because like it is so freaking hard to survive in America in 2025, and in general, like it's very hard for someone who's starting fresh here in America. So I felt that that was a really good twist. Like I really appreciated it. And then when they didn't really like explain why or what happened, because it should have been resolved what happened with this curse. So then she's at the end, she kind of like evolves into this good Hispanic, proud Hispanic is the right way to say it. A proud Hispanic, embraces her culture and her roots. So she's dressed more like a Latina, not like a corporate professional. She has like her more homey office, and she's helping the man who had asked for help at the beginning. And she starts coughing, and then I was like, wait, is this what happened to her mom? Like, did her mom have a curse too? Because the mom had coughing at the beginning too, which confused me. Like, why was the mom coughing at the beginning the way she was at the end? And then the hand comes out of her mouth. And to me, that was symbolism for how you really never stop living without shame and guilt. Because for me, the theme of the movie was that she felt guilt for leaving home and having a better life. And that's why she automatically assumes that it's a curse that they put on her, because she feels so much like shame and guilt for wanting more. And that was the part where, like, I tell you, I did get emotional and I like cried a little bit, but I feel like if she had really like brought the emotion, I would have completely broken in that scene where she's telling the dad in the lobby of the apartment how she's like, she cursed me because I left and I did this. And then at one point she even says like, I thought that mom and grandma would hold me back. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional talking about it now. Like, that's really how it feels in a Hispanic culture. Like, your family never understands like why you want more, why you want to leave, like why isn't being home enough for you? And that theme was like so strong for me, and like the first time I've ever seen it reflected in film. So it was really strong in me. And like the hand at the end was just like, you can never let go of that guilt. Like, the guilt is so strong that it just torments you the rest of your life. And that's kind of what that scene meant to me. Like, I don't really think it was a, like, this is actually what happened in the story. It's just how, like, it continues to terrorize her the rest of her life. The guilt of what she did to her mom.
Well, I didn't think of it like that. So now that you're explaining it to me from your perspective, I'm like, okay, fine, we can have a triple twist ending.
Yeah.
No, but I definitely agree with some of the things that you were saying. Definitely leaving like your home or like your extra household. So some part like of my past also is where like my dad owned a restaurant, and there was like the not shame, but just like the guilt of not wanting to be taking over the business, the family business. I didn't want to take over the family business. That was just something I just never, I don't know, sounded like that was my future. Like that's not me. And eventually I did leave, and, never went back. And I definitely have a lot of guilt from doing that, but also I needed to do it to make myself happy and reach my goals. So I definitely I was connecting with her. I was like, girl, yes. Like, yeah, we have this guilt that we kind of just carry with us. But at the end of the day, it's, we have to keep moving, and we can't have that be the thing that like kind of ties us down or something like that. But yeah, I definitely did get a little bit emotional too, watching those scenes. Cause you just feel like, oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Not even, I don't know how to word it, but yeah, I just felt connected to her, and I felt like, I think you also said this earlier, that you felt seen. You're like, okay, yes, like that's how I feel in like these situations of having to overcome, how you're not embarrassed, but just like, I don't know, you're just different in a weird way. But yeah, definitely had good symbolisms, and definitely saw myself in her a lot. Some other things about symbolism that I didn't want to bring up was, if you remember in the beginning of the movie, she's like going through this journey down into the subway and then finally getting to the apartment. And you see like these things attacking her. And even in the apartment, like things attacking her. But then at the end, it's kind of revealed that she's been given these like visions or like these warnings. And I kind of saw that as like her family's trauma or generational trauma coming back to haunt her. So if you remember like the hands that comfort her under the bed, those were like the hands of her when she was like in the van and people were trying to like calm her, like, don't make a noise because the immigration's going to hear us. And then like the dog attacking her in the subway was the dog that was attacking them when they get found.
You're right. I hadn't connected that.
So I was like, oh, this. I love the symbolism. Like I was like, okay, this is such a good movie. Like 4 stars. Like I was watching that, or 4 bats. I was like, this scene is just perfect. And I loved how they were kind of paying homage to like generational trauma.
Yeah. And I agree 100%. And I also feel like it's not so much, this is the part of the film I feel that they did really good of showing and not telling, and why I feel that it might not make as much sense or like resonate for someone who hasn't experienced it. But like something Mr. Swooks brought up was, he was like, it's kind of weird how she just like got into the witchcraft part of it. And I was like, actually, like I felt that was kind of relatable too, because it's like growing up Hispanic, death is a huge part of our culture. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this with your family, but anytime me and Rudy go home, both of our moms will say like, did you hear this person died? Or like this person died? Or they're obsessed with talking about who has died, death in general. Rudy hates it because he has like anxiety over it too. But like Hispanic culture is very death positive. I feel like they're so open about talking about it. And even if you don't believe in Catholicism or religion or whatever it is that your family practices, you know it. Like, I was there and I legit, first of all, I want to say I was so happy and proud to see that our theater was filled with Latinos. I've never experienced that in a horror movie. And I was also kind of like bummed out that it was only Latinos, like no one else wanted to support the film. Everyone in there, the first time they started saying Padre Nuestro que estás en el cielo, everyone was whispering it to themselves because everybody knows it. Yeah. And it was like such a like chilling moment to like experience that, because we weren't praying, but it's engraved in us. Like we know those things. And so I feel like that was also just a really nice way of like showcasing, like whether you practice it, believe it or not, when you grow up in that setting and that atmosphere, it's engraved in you and you know it. Like it comes second nature to you. And I think that's why she was so easy to like jump into doing it, because growing up around it, you're kind of like it's like second nature to you. It's kind of one of those things that like it never really goes away. So like being around it was just kind of like you just jump back into it and you just understand, like, as long as I believe it should work. And that's kind of like the mentality she had. So some of it was like nice that they didn't tell you those things. But on the other hand, it was just like too easy for her to jump into it. But I also understand why she didn't, because it's also like, you know, those things. Like it's part of your culture. It's your roots. You know the basics.
Yeah, that's true. Even for me, I guess, I don't know the prayers by heart, but definitely if I see it written out, then I'm like, okay, I could read it in Spanish. Just because, also, like you were saying, very death positive. I don't know how many funerals I've been to and how long those funerals are because of the rosary and the prayers. So even though I don't know it by memory, I've heard it millions of times over and over and over and over again. So I do see her like, okay, yeah, I've heard this so many times, I'm sure I could read it, you know, and perform the ritual on my own. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's why I feel like it's funny because coming off of Sinners, which was so amazing, it was funny because the whole time I was thinking, I was like, I didn't know much about Black culture, but I got this one.
Yeah.
And it just felt so nice. And like, yes, I wish that it had been to the level and quality that Sinners was. And hopefully that'll come in time. But for me, it was just like, there was enough right about my culture and my story and upbringing in this that like I cannot say it was a bad film, because it was just like the first time I've really seen so much of myself in one film, and yet alone a horror film. Like, chef's kisses. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm just upset. I just wanted to love this movie so much. But I guess that'll lead up to kind of like our final wrap up, like our final thoughts of the movie. So I wrote this down. I said, I feel like this movie would have benefited from a little advice from Coco Chanel. You know, before you leave the house, look at the mirror and take one accessory off. I felt like it's like, before you finalize your script, take a look at it and remove one twist ending. Just because, I don't know, I just can't get over it. I know I keep bringing it up, but I just can't get over the twist endings. But I do like the way that you kind of interpreted the twist endings or that the final twist ending of when the spirit comes out of her mouth. You're like, okay, you'll never escape the guilt. You just have to learn how to live with it. So those are my final thoughts.
So you would have been fine without that final one, right? Or did you not like the dad's twist either?
I wish the movie would have ended when her father got there. So when he gets there, they're like going through like the photo albums and everything kind of like got resolved, I guess you can say. I felt like everything got resolved. And he gives her the keys. He's like, go warm up the truck and then we'll leave.
Then that's when you're like, oh crap, it's not over.
Yes, I was like, no, end it here. Please end it here. So I felt like that would have been the perfect ending for me, where she kind of learned her lesson. She embraced her culture, and she's no longer embarrassed of, her past or like where she came from, because she was like reminiscing through the photos. And like everything was just like perfectly done. So I just wish it would have ended right there and not with the twist endings.
Oh, that's funny. And I don't know. I kind of agree, because it felt like that was a good ending, but at the same time, I do get like the dad being so desperate. I love that part of it. And like, maybe it wasn't necessary to have the part at the end. Like, they could have shown it a different way. But I don't know. For me, obviously, I have some real trauma and guilt I need to deal with. But I was just like, yeah, granted, it's not a demon, but I live with it daily. Like, I should be calling home more often. I should be going home more often. So, yeah, for me, it was very relatable. All right. Then I guess that can bring us into our final rating. It's freaking bats. All right, you kind of already spoiled it, but what is your final rating? How many bats do you give this film?
Okay, so I guess I have to rate this movie the way it was presented to us. So the way it was presented, the way it ended, I have to give this movie 2.5 bats. But
2.5? Okay.
But if the movie ended at that scene that I said where they resolve everything, it would have been like a 3.5 for me.
Okay, fair.
And only because I'm going to talk about another movie for Be Kind Rewind, and I feel like it doesn't match that rating. So yeah, I have to go with a 2.5. How about you?
This one was hard for me because I recognize objectively the things that were wrong with it. Like, I admit it. Yes, there are things that could have been better, but also I felt like it was therapy for me, honestly, to like just know I'm not the only one who feels this way, who feels guilt for wanting to be more and carve your own path. Whatever. I'm going with 4 stars. It wasn't a perfect film. Or 4 bats. It wasn't perfect, but it meant a lot to me. And I had fun watching it. It wasn't a film that I will like never watch. Like, I will probably want to watch this film again at some point. And even better that it wasn't too scary. Like, on one hand, I wish it had been scary, but I don't know. It just hit just right for me. And I really liked it despite its shortcomings.
Yeah, I see that. Especially just because you go to a movie to feel something. So for a horror movie to make you feel like a connection to something or a connection to the character, I get it. So I'm not judging. I get it.
Yeah. All right. And before we part ways for the week, let's have a little moment of Be Kind Rewind. We're all about the vibes here, so if this film hit just right, here are a few spooky picks you can rewind to match the mood, the madness, or the mayhem. What's your pick, Rabbit?
So for me, I am choosing Huesera, or The Bone Woman. I believe I first saw this movie on Shudder. It's in Spanish, if I remember correctly, so I had to watch it with subtitles. But it's about this woman. I have the description here. Valeria has a long dream about becoming a mother. After learning that she's pregnant, she expects to feel happy, but she doesn't. So it's kind of like a story about overcoming her postpartum depression. But it's a horror movie, so there's like very scary scenes, a lot of body horror in the movie. So it felt similar in the way of she was like seeing these visions, but it was just Huesera just had it was just scarier. And also it was similar in the way where she had to overcome something on her own. And there was a lot of folklore, a lot of brujeria that she had to go through. So definitely if you like Rosario and you want to watch something scarier or something a little bit more serious, definitely watch Huesera, The Bone Woman. What about you?
I have not heard of that. That's interesting. I will be checking it out. Mine, I'm very ashamed. More shame and guilt. Here comes my hand. I'm ashamed that I don't have a Hispanic movie to share. So I need to grow in that, I've realized. So I will for sure check the one you mentioned out. But the movie felt a lot like Evil Dead Rising to me. The whole like trapped in an apartment complex. I feel like there's rain in that movie too, right? Where it's like a rainstorm happening outside. Yes. Or they show rain. I don't know.
There was an earthquake and they couldn't leave. Yeah, there was like
yeah. So some kind of like weather element stopping them from leaving, trapped in an apartment with something scary. So I feel like it's very similar. I honestly didn't really like Evil Dead Rising. I know that's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people loved it. I don't know why. I just didn't resonate with it for some reason. But I feel like this film's very similar, which is funny because I love Rosario. But I feel like they're very similar vibes. So I might even give it another watch, to be honest, to see if my opinion changes. Like maybe it was just bad timing when I saw it and I wasn't vibing.
Yeah, maybe. I loved Evil Dead Rise. I thought that was a really good movie.
So did Mr. Spooks. I don't know why. Yeah, I think I need to rewatch it.
Yeah.
All right. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. What's the answer to today's Tombstone Trivia? So I will remove the bat and see. We were correct. It is American Horror Story. So let us know in the comments on YouTube if you guessed that one correctly. And we'll see if we return with Tombstone Trivia or Bone Mary / next week.
Yeah, I like this one. Hopefully we could get more I don't know, obscure questions and we can try to figure it out with our two brains together.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell Mr. Spooks to go harder on us next week or whenever we bring it back. All right, Ghosters, we hope you had a bloody good time hanging out with us today. Clown in a Cornfield, got it right this time, is popping into theaters this weekend. So we'll see you here next Monday with our freshly popped horror review.
And remember, keep cinematic horror alive on the big screen and go see something spooky this weekend.
Until next time, sending you ghouls and kisses. Bye.
Ha 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 ha!